to introduce your fund. So given that we have talked about healthcare systems, etc., can you tell us about the fund, the idea, and what problem the fund is trying to solve?
Yeah, so Hayden Ventures is now a pretty traditional life science VC firm headquartered in Oslo. The background for Hayden Ventures was going back to my days in London working for a global life science VC firm. It sort of stood out that for me, coming from the Nordics, that there were great opportunities to set up a firm like this based in the Nordics. And that was based on the constellation of, we're having very high quality science in the region, in Norway and the rest of the Nordics. And also we have a booming startup scene for the last, 10, 15 plus years. The startup scene has grown a lot. And at the same time, there are very few specialist life science investors on the ground. And that sort of stood out as an opportunity. So I moved back to Oslo and started working on setting up Hayden Ventures. And I was, privileged to have a few of my colleagues from London joining me. So the senior team now that we've known each other for many years. And, back to what we talked about before, people with complementary backgrounds and skills. So, I have Walter, who's the other managing partner. We have Roger, who's our partner based in Stockholm, running our Stockholm office, and Florian, our operating partner. And we built the team, so we're now 14 people altogether, 10 on the investment side and 4 in the back office. And basically, what we're doing is that we're looking for untapped opportunities in areas of Europe where we see lots of upside and few specialist investors like ourselves focusing. In particular in the Nordic region, where here in Oslo we have our headquarters, and also we have our Stockholm office. So we spend a lot of time on the Nordics, but not exclusively. We invest across Europe and a little bit outside of Europe as well.
That's a perfect intro. So just a quick reflection, because often when I talk to people who actually have managed to start a fund, right? But there has to be many people who want to start a fund that never start a fund because they're not able to either raise the capital, get the right people on board, etc. If you have to build an alternative world where you're trying to set up this fund, what are the roadblocks that actually has a great potential to stop you from getting so far and setting up this fund? Is it the capital side, the people side, or what's the biggest hurdles you have to get over?
It's a lot of hurdles. it's really difficult. I mean, there's no way around it. So I really think you need a lot of things falling into place. And I think Hayden Ventures was enabled by the fact that it was right time, the right place, with the right set of people. So you need to check a lot of boxes. And you can say sort of the biggest hurdle is raising funds, convincing investors. That's kind of like the very obvious one, but that is obviously linked to everything else, right? It's do you have the right opportunity set? Is it the right timing for it? And do you have the right people for it? So,
definitely. But is it also fair to say that there's maybe more to bring in terms of your mindset than just looking at the pieces to the puzzle? Because given that there are so many hurdles, you also need to be pretty stubborn in order to bother to jump over so many hurdles.
Yeah, I think, you need to be stubborn. You need to be persistent, I would say, and you really need to believe in what you're doing, right? You need to be 50% convinced that you see an opportunity and you are, well positioned. You're the right person to do it. And when you have like the conviction, then it's easy to be persistent. I think if you have any doubts yourself, that's a different situation. Then you should perhaps think about it and maybe not spend the time on this or that. But I think, just making sure yourself that, you see the opportunity, you have the right people, it is the right time. And then, you have to be persistent. But then it's easier, as I said, to stick with it.
Definitely. So I just quickly checked your name, right? And it seems like it stems from a period where, is it fair to say that the process from Earth being just only gas in order to become a planet? And
Yeah.
in my, I don't, this is not my field, obviously, but it seems like the hard part about creating life on Earth is that you needed oxygen, right? So if you take this analogy over to you as a company, what's the oxygen for the founders? How do you value that? Because in order to make something, in order for a startup to survive, like a planet, it needs like oxygen, right, to have life on planet. So how do you give oxygen to the founders, and what's the oxygen? Is it money or the people, or what is it?
Yeah, I think, same as the world need a number of factors for life to be created, like oxygen being one of them, one important one. It's the same for startups, right? So there are a number of factors, but obviously one very important one is capital, and that's one of the things that we provide as investors.
Because how do you assess the founders? Because I think maybe a very interesting part of this puzzle is that if you look at entrepreneurship, you typically envision, this young person doing computer science at Stanford, etc. But in your pitch decks, I guess you have a broad range of people, right? Maybe more diverse even.
Yeah, more diverse, more gray hairs, typically. To put lightly, yeah, it's slightly different. The set of founders you see in our space look different, are typically more senior than what you see in the tech space. Many of them have spent, years and years and years researching something and come up with a brilliant concept or idea that they patented and figure out now they want to commercialize the company and bring this to the market. So. Yeah, they're different, and the team, when it develops, as we talked about earlier, right? It's such a broad space, so you need so many different capabilities and expertise. And at an early stage, these companies don't have all of that. They start up small, but that's one of the things that we as investors also will help them with. Right? Capital is one thing. The other thing is to help them build a team, use our network to help them find the right people to build a company so that they are prepared for new stages of development.
But if you take the normal situations, because obviously you give money to companies to succeed and to people running those companies. So is it I know that not one example is the normal one, but is it more a case of a founder coming in with a technology idea? Maybe they have figured something out, and then you have to think, can this person get this technology into life, into the hospitals, into the patients? And it's a question of regulation, right team, R&D, because this is capital intensive, very capital intensive in some cases. So can you just explain the conversations you guys are having with the founders who want money from you guys? Because it's a very fascinating industry, right?
Yeah, and it very much depends. So we invest multi-stage. That means that we invest in very early stage companies, which can be, as you say, founder that has an idea, it comes and discuss with us, and also in companies that are much more late stage, that already have put together a team, they know well away doing their development work, etc. So it very much depends. But in any of these cases, obviously, what we have to do is to figure out, okay, what is the goal of this product, right? What will it look like in the markets? And go through everything to get to there. We work backwards. Where does this product fit in? What is the market opportunity? What is the patient group? What is the competition, etc. And then work the way back from there. And that is looking at, does it have the IP that's needed to get it there? What would be the regulatory pathway to get it there? What would be the design of the different clinical studies, etc. And that is a big piece of work that we spend time on. So our investment process typically takes many months, right, to getting to know the company founders and also all of these aspects in terms of the where it's going and how to get there, basically.